Hey, what's up? It's the Fit Gear Hunter, and up for review today is the Coros Pace 2 versus the Garmin 245 when it comes to CrossFit training. Everything on the Fit Gear Hunter YouTube channel and the fitgearhunter.com website is for the purpose of testing and tracking devices for CrossFit training versus all the other running, biking, and videos. Reviews that are out there. So if you like it, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing for more. I'm thinking about with the completion of the 2021 CrossFit Games and Toomey and Medeiros winning the championship, thinking about doing a top 10 watches for CrossFit training video. So that might be coming up soon. But for now, I really want to compare these two devices because these are actually, now that Coros has added the Evo Labs, and I did a full review of the Coros Evo Labs, I'll put a link in the description below along with the timestamps for this video, as well as just a review for the Coros Pace 2 if you don't do the running to activate the EvoLabs, which means it's not worth it to buy. But when you do activate the Evo Labs, which is like Coros's training load platform, and that was a real failure of them beforehand, it really makes these a head-to-head comparison when you're looking at a budget or just a solid quality watch for CrossFit training as well as just for daily life. So we're going to look at those two aspects. We're going to look at each of these watches head-to-head when it comes to evaluating a workout, what you see in a workout, what the watch looks like, and then evaluating them for training load, just seeing if it assesses how much exertion your body's under and how much of a break you need and how much recovery time you should consider taking. And then we're going to look at them for wellness and life. So how do they function just as basic smartwatches? How do they function as far as the basic widgets or gizmos or apps you can download and just the basic usages aspects, as well as how do they function with wellness and recovery outside of just recovery time workout to workout. So with that, we're going to dive in. We're going to look at it in layers like that. So what you see in a workout and what you see after a workout. What you see more long-term trend in the training load, because those are the two primary aspects when evaluating a watch for CrossFit training. And then we're going to look at it just in general as a watch and when it comes to wellness, what information it gives us that can help us live the rest of our lives in a more healthy way and makes the watch more purposeful and useful. So with that, let's dive in.
Okay, so what do we see about these two watches? The first thing is that they're really kind of identical in basic body structure. They're 42 millimeters each across. They're both 13.3 millimeters thick. So they both use, 20 millimeter bands, so easily replaceable. They both have heart rate sensors, obviously. They actually have a similar looking cord, so nothing spectacular on the differences there. So what we're going to look at today in different aspects on the watch and then in the app is what do you see in the workout, what do you see after the workout. So if we look at these devices each, we're going to go into a workout. Let's just say it's the cardio. This is like a custom cardio screen that I've created, and then this is a custom. So we're just going to go ahead and start it on both. And just see what you see in the workout. So again, you do get a heart rate gauge here. A heart rate gauge is not available on the Garmin, but you can scroll down and just see different details. So this is a custom made thing where you have the laps, the lap time, the current lap time and the last lap time and the overall workout time. So you can see different stats. And you can see that on the Coros, you can actually see more stats. This is the most stats you can see on the 245, but you can see all your stats. You can scroll down. You can get a heart rate gauge overall. You can get a heart rate gauge overall on the Garmin. Super, super similar. So we can go ahead and stop it in both. And we'll just go ahead and hold that down and finish it and say we don't want to keep it. And we'll see if we can save that here to see what information it'll give us if it's just even giving you the basics. So here's what you'll see in a workout on the Garmin afterwards. If you didn't train very much, then you're not going to see any details. But either way, we'll look at it on the watch. And what do you see after the workout? Because that's a more pertinent aspect. So we'll go into history here. And this is only if you've activated the Evo Labs. Do you see all of this primary information? So this was a rigorous workout, incredibly difficult. You can see it's 867 calories, and you can see the training load, super high, the aerobic training effect, the anaerobic training effect, and then picture of the pretty graph, the heart rate zones, and at the very bottom, you can see recovery time, 4 days. So if you go into the Garmin watch, what you can't see because I didn't just do an activity is you can't see the actual recovery time in the workout history. So there's today, 41 seconds, but yesterday. So we see the difficulty of the work, so we can see the same basic information that you would get. Now, when you finish a workout, you only get like 5 rotating pieces of information that you can click in to get any of these primary content pieces. But you can see, really helpful stuff. And you can go in and see the heart rate, which shows you just the simple bar graph. You don't get the pretty graph. You can see the laps for time, if you did rounds for time. So it does give you, and then just like a full summary. You actually get a simplified version of that, but in both of these watches, you get primary content, both the training effect and the recovery time, as well as the workout time and heart rate details. So you can see the basics of what you get in a workout and basically what you get after a workout. So let's come together and talk a little bit about it. Okay, looking at the two basic screens. So this is the main landing page. We're not going to talk about that now. We're just going to talk about what you see after a workout, how it evaluates the intensity of a workout in the app itself, each compared to the other. So you can see the workout time, the training load here in the middle right is a new stat that was added, wasn't previously available. It's only come about through the EvoLab. And then you see the workout, the heart rate graph, the average heart rate, the picture of the time, and then you see your training effect. These are on a scale of 0 to 6. So you can see that in this workout, which actually was a lot of running in the back half, running, wall balls, and single arm dumbbell press or devil press, it gave me a high anaerobic score when it coupled it with the recovery time that we just saw on the watch. So that's probably not accurate with the aerobic impact of the workout. And so you can see that same workout here. Now, when you come to the landing page, you go into activities in the bottom right, and then all activities if you want to go into a specific one. So here's the workout from Saturday. You have a few different pages that you can tabulate through. But the basic one is this summary page on the end. You see the same heart rate graph. You can click on any of these and it'll show you a sideways graph. But the training effect, you can see the aerobic evaluation on the Garmin. And they both evaluate aerobic and anaerobic. So that's great. We want to be able to see both sides of the coin. But the aerobic workout from this type of workout, which had a lot of running, wall balls, and devil's presses, which is like burpee with a dumbbell snatch, you want to see that statistically, like it hitting the aerobic category, because that's really what it was. Respiration rate, elevation, temperature. So those are the two stats you don't see, respiration rate and temperature, and then the pretty graph of the time and the heart rate sense. So let's come back together and talk a little bit about training, but that's what you see workout to workout. You don't see recovery time in either of these.
So there you have it. There are a lot of similarities to what you see in the watch when you're in the workout and what you see on the watch after the workout. So you see a lot of the same stuff. There's a different layout, a different design. You get a little bit, different, prettier graph on the Coros, but you get all the primary information a little bit more visible on the Garmin. Like in that main landing page, it just bounces you through training effect, boom, average heart rate, boom, and recovery time, boom. So you get the primary things there, and then when you look at the workout, obviously in the app, you can see different stats. In the 245's giving you a little bit higher quality stats, a little bit higher quality detail, but both of them are doing a good job in the workout and evaluating the intensity of the workout afterwards. But what did they do as far as evaluating your training load over time, evaluating your overall fitness growth and fitness development? Because again, if you want to watch just tracks heart rate, you can get an Apple Watch, you can get the Garmin Venue 2, you can get the Instinct Solar, and it'll just track your heart rate, but it's not telling you about the training load and the impact of the training load on your body over time, or the impact of the training load on your fitness development over time. And that's what these watches do. That's what the Garmin Forerunner series of watches, except for the 55 or the 45, in all the Forerunner series and all the Phoenix series, give you training analytics when it comes to training load, recovery time, and the details there. And now Coros, on all of their watches, as long as you run for a long period of time, and I'll go ahead and spell that out right now because I just did the video. It's in the description below. But you have to run for 300 minutes in a sort of steady state level jog. So you can't go for intervals where your heart rate is fluctuating too much, and each run has to be more than 10 minutes. Because what this is made for, it's made for runners, but us in CrossFit, we want the training aspects, the training specifics, and the Coros offers a lot at the price point but not unless you're willing to run 300 minutes. So to get these stats we're going to see now, to get this training program, you have to run for 300 minutes in sort of a level. You have to use the run profile or the track run profile, and you have to accumulate, I think, over 42 days. So you have to accumulate in a certain period of time. But if you could just add your workouts, 10 minutes of running, add it all up, figure it all out, just to run 300 minutes in 42 days or 300 minutes in 30 days. So 10 minutes a day, whatever you want to do, but just put in the time, and then you'll get all the other stats. You don't ever have to run again. At least that's what I'm seeing so far. Obviously, you're not going to get updated run details, but the EvoLab gives you the intense sort of the perspective into your training impact, and it also activates your recovery time on the watch from workout to workout. So it's a fundamental need there. So with that, let's dive in. Let's look at each of the two platforms and how they show us our training load over time and help us to evaluate our development of our fitness.
Okay, so what do we see on the watch when it comes to training load, when seeing your history, seeing the impact? Well, on the EvoLab, once you have the EvoLab activated, only if you period or minutes of time, you get the running performance, which will give you race indicators and average race lap, miles per minute per mile. And then the main thing, you get the fatigue. So the fatigue, you click into that, and it'll show you, so again, you get your base fitness. This is what's going to improve over time the more you work out, and the load impact over time. So these numbers go up as you increase your fitness. And then you see a nice graph of, information which you can see on the 7-day load. So you can see that hard workout was Saturday. So, the load levels that you're facing, you can see your distribution of easy, medium, hard, see if we have percentage of training in different areas, and it just sort of basic blurb about the last workout. Once you get into fatigue, you can see recovery time. So the overall recovery time, it just gives you a summary, please rest, because it says I was obliterated from that workout, which is true, but it wasn't that true. 61 hours to full recovery, 51 hours until I should do more intense hard training. So that's what the Coros shows you. So it shows you these primary pieces of information. That's the main things you see when it comes to load on the watch. Now, what does Garmin show you? Garmin shows you the performance indicator. So it shows you a summary of how you're doing. So this is a nice label. This actually tells you relative to your previous, periods of workouts and the most recent workouts if you're improving or declining, and that helps you to see your fitness development. You see your VO2 max in a nice big summary screen. You see your training load, nice big summary graph. Now, if you have a higher level Forerunner or a Phoenix 6, then you'll see even more specificity to this. But I actually like the 245 for CrossFit because it just shows you, boom, simple, where you're at in the chart. And then your recovery time. So you can actually click into that. Your recovery needs are high. So again, because of that hard workout, I think it said 4 days on the Coros' recovery time and 3 days on the Garmin. And then your race predictors are built into that. Plus they have, I think you get intensity minutes. So it's not really your training history. So overall, your performance, your training effect just gives you a simple summary. You don't get any more information if you click the button. Recovery time, race predictors. So there you have it with the differences. Let's look at the app to see some real primary difference.
Okay, so what do we see in the Coros? This is the EvoLab. We're going to go into that. So if you see at the bottom, the icons, first the graph, then the runner, and then the shield. This is the shield. This is the EvoLab. This is the evaluation of training load over time, workouts, and intensity, and the impact on your body. The top part is just for runners. Now, it still has value if you run periodically. I'm not going to discount it, but for the purpose of this review for CrossFit training, it is worthless. So we'll leave it out. The second part, the middle where you see fatigue, base fitness, and load impact, that's really useful information. You can see your workouts, or you will begin to see your workouts having an effect on your base fitness and your fatigue level. So this watch is saying that I'm excessively fatigued, and we'll see how that evaluates over time. But overall, to give you a metric to see if you're just in general fatigued outside of the recovery time need. And then you see your load graph. You click onto any one of these parts, and it'll give you this sideways graph where you can see your fatigue trends, your base fitness trends, and your load impact effect. So you can see these sort of statistical aspects. You can see your base fitness starting to grow alongside the different things. You can also see your 7-day load total. This is the picture of the sort of the sideways graph of that other section of the EvoLab. So you can see the bottom is where it's saying, okay, this is your optimal training load amount.
and you're way up top here training well beyond your load level. So we'll see if that evaluates over time, but either way, it's giving you sort of a range for what's suggested, as well as the picture view of what you're currently doing. And then if you go into Garmin, and this is just to compare them apples to apples, you actually go into this training status icon. Let me be specific because everybody asked this. The training status icon right in the middle here where it says productive. This only populates and appears if you do 2 5-minute running workouts with the running profile. It doesn't matter how fast you go. It doesn't matter what type of training you do. It has to capture 2 VO2 max scores, and it takes at least 5 minutes of running in the running profile. So if you're wondering why it says training status not available, that's the only reason why. So just go on 2 5-minute warm-up runs and you'll be fine. So you go into that, and this will actually break it down by watch. So you can see a bunch of different information, but you see your summary of information. So your load, your overall, this is one thing that Garmin does that Coros doesn't do, is you don't see a basic guide point, like where it says productive. It'll sometimes say overreaching if you're working out too hard, or unproductive if you're overworking out, or detraining, or so it tells you specifically how your current fitness or training level relates to other things. So let's go into the load tab. Because this is the 245, it doesn't have any more extra information, but here you can see your load graph, just like we saw on the watch of the Coros, but they don't have it in a picture graph like what day you pumped in some heavy duty loads. Here you can see it. So I scored a 374 on that workout on 31st. You can click into any one of these and go back to the activity itself. So it's actually a lot more user-friendly than Coros. And then you see your 7-day load over time. So this is the tracking of the 7-day load, so you can see it across a broader period of time. Now this is only tracking to 8.1 because technically, nope, not that one. Technically I've been using the 6 solar, but this is the same thing. This is what the watch tracked over a period of time, where it's giving you an optimal range and your current fitness or workout training load level. So these are just the 2 different differences you can see. So you can see a similar type of graph here, but you're more limited in what information you can access directly from the app. And you see, more broad information here where you can see some more specific summary of VO2 max. This is, again, same type of information. You can see your VO2 max over time, your training load over time. But either way, those are the differences. Let's come back.
Okay, so obviously these are contenders when it comes to watching yourself over a period of time. But what about the wellness aspects? And then what about just using these as a day-to-day watch? Which of these is better? Which of these have strong points? So we're going to look at the wellness aspects. Now, obviously, sleep analytics are a primary point. And we're going to look on the app, because neither of these show it on the watch, how the sleep was in the previous night's sleep. So we'll sort of evaluate, do they give similar information? And I'll give you my personal commentary along the way about the quality of the sleep visually. But how do they compare when it comes to sleep, when it comes to some of the overall details there? But how do they compare when it comes to wellness? I'm going to show it on the watch, but Garmin has a body battery, which is heart rate variability tracking over time, which is tracking your stress levels throughout the day. So not looking just at the workouts to see how much recovery time you may need, but looking at your quality of sleep as well as your level of stress throughout the day to tell you if you really are depleted and should go, take some more time off or take a nap before a high intensity training. And it helps you to evaluate when you're getting sick, when you're recovery. If you're incredibly sore, your body will be in sort of a recovery mode, and your heart rate variability will show that you have higher stress because your body's in recovery. If you're sick, if you caught the flu, you will absolutely see it. If you drank too much alcohol, you'll absolutely see it. So it's showing you through heart rate variability the overall impact of life on your body at all times. And so when you look at the 2 head-to-head, the thing that we'll see is that the Coros is just lacking any of the primary wellness aspects. We'll see the sleep. I still think, we'll get into that in a second, and I'll talk about the details of the pros and cons of each of their sleep. But the wellness is a major differentiator here, because the body battery on Garmin shows an incredibly large amount about your overall health and wellness throughout the day. And then as a watch, we're going to look at the widgets you can see, the sort of the basic information, some of the specialty things you can see, and talk about some of the differences there. So with that, let's dive in.
Okay, so what about differences as a watch? We're going to look at it as a watch and then talk about the wellness features. So when you look at this as a watch and you look at the Coros, so you have the primary training information, first 3 widgets. And then you have a summary of your day. That's a useful widget. And then you have heart rate over time. I mean, you can push this little thing, you can go back in time, but I don't need to see a heart rate graph as a primary widget personally. Then you have altitude. I don't need to see my altitude changes throughout the day as a primary widget. And then you have elevation. The pressure in the air, so the atmospheric pressure. I don't need to see that for sure throughout the day. And then you have your temperature. Again, useless widgets. And you can't change what this is. And then you can obviously go into, this is actually a summary, useful one, which is sunset, sunrise, dawn, dusk. That actually is pretty useful. So that's what you get in the Coros, and that is sort of locked in. And if you don't activate the EvoLabs, these first 3 fields just come out like flat 0. So what do you see on the Garmin? Well, you can change the direction and order. You can change what you see. So you can go into any one of these. This is the body battery we'll talk about in a second. You can reorder it, your productive, your weather. So again, you can see weather in a big, simple summary form, useful and helpful information. You get a summary of health information throughout the day. You get your My Day, which is your what workouts you did, your intensity minutes, your steps, your calories throughout the day, pulse ox the last night, notification summary, music controls. Obviously, if you have music, this is something you could get on the 245, which is obviously not available on the Coros. History, training lab, and then you can change any of these. So you can go in and see edit widgets, but you can also say, I want to add widgets. You can add calendar appointments, Garmin coach, heart rate, last activity. I actually want to add that one. Last ride, last run, last swim, all these things you can add and be able to change the functionality of the watch. Now, they both track your workouts the same, but the functionality of the watch is so much better because you can even download other apps from the Connect IQ store. But let's talk about what you see when it comes to health and wellness on the watches. So you can see the recovery time on the Coros, the fatigue level, base fitness growth. That's part of the training load. You can see the same thing when it comes to the Garmin on the performance stats. So you can see the recovery time there. It doesn't show you the fatigue level exactly, but when it comes to wellness, the Garmin's got the body battery, and it shows you the impact of your day in the watch. And you can click into it or scroll down, and you can see your stress levels at different times throughout the day, and a period of time when I took the watch off to charge it. So you can see your depletion of resources throughout the day. And this is based on your quality of sleep, the impact of a workout, and your heart rate variability or your overall stress throughout the day. This is crazy. This is actually super useful information when it comes to wellness. So then the last thing we're going to look at is the sleep specifics in the app itself. But when it comes down to functions as a watch, the Garmin really dominates. And when it comes down to wellness, there's no competition because there's really not a after the workout wellness calculator on the Coros. You could basically do this for tracking your workouts and not wear it anymore. Yes, it's true. You would not know your barometric pressure throughout the day or where your altitude changed when you went in the office building, but you would get all the workout stats but not need to wear the watch. The Garmin, you feel like I need to wear this so I know where my body battery's tracking throughout the day as I'm checking the weather and a bunch of other widgets. They both take notifications off your phone, so there's no problems there. But let's look at the app to see the differences in wellness on the app, and then we'll come back together for a second. Now, what do we see in the baseline information? So again, if you're looking at what's the basic usefulness of the watch, we'll look at the basic usefulness of the app. Here you just get some primary information. You can't change the order of these things, and we'll look at the wellness in a second. You get your workout summary on the next tab over on the bottom. You get your shield summary. And you can go in to create your own workout programs. And you see a muscle heat map. Just be aware that the strength programming in the Coros does not track training load, training effect. It doesn't flow into training effect. So it is not going to build your fitness levels if you do the strength workout. So either way, here you can just access all the basic information. But here's a summary of information for Garmin. One of the things I like a lot is you can reorder all these things. So you can go down and see your week at a glance, you see your yesterday, past 7 days, and then you can edit it and you can go in and say I want to see this first, that second, whatever it is. But you can change the order of information. Plus you can turn information fields off and on. You can see your performance summary, but look at all the stats you can see. The health summary, holy cow, look at all the stats you can see. And then obviously your activity history. and you can go in to see a whole bunch of other stuff. So just way more diverse. So let's talk about the health and wellness. And first, let's look at the Coros because it's got the biggest room for error. You go into the sleep, and I don't know why they have this huge gobbledygook of information. You can track which part of the time you're at night, but look at the middle top of the page. It says I was in deep sleep for 3 hours, and I haven't slept deep sleep for 3 hours and 13 minutes in my life. I probably haven't gotten 3 hours and 13 minutes of deep sleep in the last 3 days or week. So way off information. The graph looks, in my opinion, not useful information, doesn't help me. And you can see there's just crazy trend lines with the amount of deep sleep that say, oh, I stopped wearing it for a while. 3 hours and 6 minutes of deep sleep. Not really. Again, not useful information. So I think the sleep's worthless. I think this graph is worthless, and even the statistics, the actual information is worthless. And you don't get any other sleep or wellness information in the Coros app. So otherwise, it's just tracking your steps. So outside of the workouts, the Coros watches are just tracking your steps, because who's going to look at their heart rate at 4:02 p.m. when they're filing their office in the cubicle? Active energy, maybe that's useful, but what do we see on the Garmin? Well, the first is the sleep comes out way more well laid out. You can see periods of time. Now, this is Garmin's analytics, and they haven't yet gotten to the 245 400 series, but they should be updating with First Beat Analytics, which is super high quality sleep analytics, because it's a whole outside company that's been doing it for a long time. So these stats, people say, well, I don't agree with that. Now, I did get up in the middle of the night, and that is true. People, you can say what you want, but it's still giving you a prettier graph. You can see your movement over time, like, oh, I definitely got up at that point. Super helpful. That is really visually. You can see your pulse ox over time and your respiration. But if you go in the top, let's go back to turn that off. Go back, you can see your summary of deep sleep. That's not accurate. 2 hours is not accurate. I'm just, again, the First Beat Analytics is having me come in at an hour or less. You can see your pulse ox. You can see your blood oxygen level at different points in the night, and it might not be as accurate as the new sensor that came out of the Venue 2 and the 945 LTE, but it's still giving you information, and your respiration throughout the night. This is just useful. Whether it's totally accurate or not, it gives you trend lines. It's useful. So you can see your trend lines over time. But the biggest thing, and I won't waste more time on sleep, is the body battery. So you can see your body battery over time being depleted by workouts or by life. You can see your stress overlaid on it. But let's look at, a couple of days. You can see, oh my gosh, look at that. So I rejuvenated to like 50% and went down to, you can hold your finger on any one of these things, down to 18. Daggum. So you can see any one day, let's see a real blistering day. Yeah, see, it was down to 7. I mean, that's helpful information. I didn't get as much sleep as I needed, so I rejuvenated to like 48 at the peak. Super helpful. It's tracking your stress over time. And you can see right there. You could say, don't be too exhausted in the little verbiage at the top. But it's tracking your heart rate variability, which is stress over time, the intensity of the workouts, and the quality of your sleep to give you all these pieces of information. Sometimes it'll tell you need to rest for a little bit longer because you've got poor sleep and you've been highly stressed. So this body battery in the middle and the sleep specifics are so useful relative to the Coros platform. It makes the wellness feel non-existent on the Coros platform. So for that, let's come back.
All right, so what do I think of these two watches? What do I think of the Coros Pace 2 versus the Garmin Forerunner 245? I have a lot to say because there's a lot of different variants. We're just going to go through the summary of all the things we just talked about and who's kind of the category winner in each of them. So if you look at in the workout, I'm going to say that it's kind of a tie, but maybe a little bit of wind goes to the Coros, which gives you one extra data field, but in all basic uses, it's a tie. So what about after the workout? What do you see on the watch or in the app when it comes to both of them? I'm going to say it's a little bit of a tie there. Now, the Garmin will actually give you temperature data and will give you some other, simple data, and you can actually, you can see some of the basics. The layout is a little bit better in my opinion, but I'd say it's a tie there. They both give you anaerobic and aerobic training effect, and they both give you recovery time on the watch itself, obviously not in the app. And so those are useful pieces of information, so it's a tie. What about the training load? I'm going to say it's a tie there too, because and you see the training load. Now, we have yet to evaluate the Coros Evo Lab over long term, and we saw that it's actually giving a little bit of an overshoot toward the anaerobic impact of a workout versus what the Garmin is giving, and I think it should have been more of an overshoot to the aerobic workout impact like we saw on the watch. But overall, the recovery time, it looks like it's a little bit too long, but in shorter workouts when I have it, there's a lot to it. At different times, it looked like the Garmin was too long. But the training load and the recovery time, I'm going to say it's actually sort of similar, but I'm going to have to give it to the 245 for the training load over time because I feel like it's a little bit clearer to see and the recovery time is a little bit more spot on and the training effect evaluation is a little bit more accurate with the Garmin. What about just the overall widgets and usefulness of the watch itself? Hands down Garmin 245 because it is functionally has a lot more capabilities. You can remove widgets, add widgets, download widgets from the IQ store, the Connect IQ store. Great there. What about sleep? Garmin's the winner here. Now they both evaluate sleep and because it's the older version of Garmin's sleep analytics and it's not yet updated to first beat, when it does update to first beat, this will crush this. But the older Garmin analytics, I'd say it's sort of head-to-head on the stats, but the usefulness and visibility of the information on the 245 in the app itself is so much more useful, so much more functional, and on top of it, it has pulse ox. It'll tell you your tracking. It has respiration tracking through your sleep, so it gives you so much more information. The sleep analytics, hands down, I mean, it's got pulse ox just built into the watch, hands down the 245. What about wellness? Well, the body battery on the 245 is statistically crushes the Coros Pace 2 because it's giving you an evaluation of your stress level throughout the day. And actually, Garmin's updated the algorithm to take into account your sleep, the intensity of your workout, and your stress level to give you improved recovery time, which is taking everything into your whole life into account to evaluate how much you're doing. What about activities and options? 245 wins there, just has more activities. What about battery life? Coros crushes it there. I mean, Coros has basically 11 days and 5.5 days on the Garmin 245. So it's going to crush the head-to-head competition there. And then looking at the size and the basics and the screens, I would say the screen quality and clarity goes to the Coros because the blacks are a little bit blacker, a little bit more washed out, but the brightness is about the same. Now, the 245 is one of the dimmest Garmin watches, and it's probably spot on with the Coros Pace 2 and even spot on with the Apex Pro and the Vertix. So unfortunately, Coros just across the board has more dim screens than any of the Garmin watches above the 245. But either way, sort of a tie there. And obviously, you can add music to the 245. It's got Wi-Fi capabilities. Both of these connect to Bluetooth and Ant+. But all across the board, all across head-to-head, I would say if you're just looking at workout analytics, these are sort of a tie, which I've never been able to say before. But if you look at everything else, your wellness aspects specifically, sleep and body battery, there's no comparison. The 245 is the strong contender and dominant over the Coros Pace 2 when it comes to CrossFit training and for use in everyday life. With that, that's the Fit Gear Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.